Good morning from Yuma, Arizona. Last time we visited the Yuma Territorial Prison together. Today, we're breaking out of here. We've flown the coop. And as fun as Yuma, Arizona is, and believe me, it's fun for the whole family. We are now heading back to Southern California across the Colorado River in our trusty landship and back into the desert. I'm pretty grateful to be living in modern times because, of course, now we drive across the desert on interstate freeways. But 100 years ago, that was definitely not the case. Whoa, dude, check this out. Behold, the Imperial Dunes. We are standing in North America's largest erg, or largest active sand-covered area. Look at the size of these sand dunes. Many of them approach 300 feet tall. And actually, if you look over there, if you look closely, you could see some off-highway vehicles. You could see some dune buggy type things. You could see some dirt bikes over there. Look how tiny they look. It's like something out of a movie. This stuff is difficult to walk across, difficult to walk through, particularly on a vertical when your feet just sink right into the sand. And if it is difficult to walk across this very fine, very talcum-y, sandy stuff, then one can only imagine how difficult it would be before four-wheel drive especially, to drive across it. Now, just a little over 100 years ago, none of this was here. There was no tarmac, no paved roads through this. And because the Imperial Dunes sit sort of smack dab in the center between San Diego and Yuma, Arizona, if you didn't want to detour around the dunes for hundreds of miles, you had to somehow travel straight through them. Now, maybe that's not a huge problem if you're trying to cross the sand dunes on foot. I mean, it'll take you a while, but it's certainly doable. But 100 years ago, if you were in one of the earliest automobiles that were crossing these deserts here with their skinny little wheels and their narrow tires, and the Imperial Dunes were a nearly insurmountable obstacle. The first automobiles that passed this way did have to do it on foot, actually. They were pulled by either teams of oxen or mules that used to make their way regularly across the dunes. But in the 1920s, as America's highways were expanding and the automobile was becoming ever more common, the folks in charge of this area came up with an innovative solution to build a road across the desert. And back then, since they had no way of putting the road down on the hard ground by digging away the sand, they decided to build the road right on top of it. And here is how they did it, just a few miles away from where we were. Right on the very western edge of the Imperial Dunes is a very important piece of history. This is what is left of their solution. This is what is left of that first road across the dunes. What we're looking at here is the world-famous Plank Road. And as you can see, the name fits perfectly. All they did, like I said, since they couldn't scrape away the sand, was lay down a wooden road right on top of it. Now, the road was constructed in sections about 8 by 12 feet, made out of these giant slabs of wood right there. Look at those planks, banded together with iron and then nailed down with these huge, heavy nails and hauled out to the desert on trucks and wagons and laid out across the sand. Now, they experimented with different layouts, as you can see over here. They had a vertical way of doing it with less planks, but eventually the horizontal version is the one that won out, probably because it was simpler to just move one entire section whenever it would be covered with sand, then deal with 2 parallel tracks. Look at this stretch right here. Now, this isn't the original plank. Well, these timbers, this what we're looking at right here, is the original plank road, but it's not in its original location. What we're looking at right out here is actually the Plank Road Historical Monument, and these were all the pieces that many, many volunteers could find out in the shifting sands of the dunes. And realizing that this valuable and pretty insane piece of history was literally being buried, they did all of us folks in the future a huge favor and pulled them out and reassembled them here in a place where we could all visit. And I have to tell you, even walking on the uneven, sort of dry, rotted old planks is a lot easier than walking just across this very shallow sand, much less the huge sand dunes we were just at about 2 miles that way. Actually, Actually, we should probably look at the parking area because there is a lot of historical information and a plaque over here. Thanks to our modern interstate, it's pretty easy to reach this place. It's only about 20-something minutes outside of Yuma to the west. That's Interstate 8 right behind me this way. And behind me in the other direction, that dark line across the horizon is the border with Mexico. That is the wall right out there. Well, looks more like a big iron fence than a wall. I mean, that's spitting distance away. Basically, the Plank Road Historic Site is sort of an offshoot. It's right next to the Imperial Dunes Recreation Area. It's managed by the Bureau of Land Management, the BLM out here. And this is what I was referring to right here on this sign. You can see in the 1970s when volunteers took apart and reassembled what was left of the Plank Road, saving it from obscurity. You know, do you guys read the signs when you stop at different places? The signs can teach you a lot when they're not all graffitied and you can actually see the old photos. Like, look at the horse-drawn plows to clear the sand so they could lay down those first planks. And you could see a car driving along the Plank Road. It was just the width of one car. Eventually, they did expand it. They put two side by side. But the first section built in 1915, that's the year my grandfather was born, so 108 years ago. In 1915, that first section was just one track wide. The original planks were laid by volunteers and paid for by a guy named Colonel Ed Fletcher. He was a businessman and a road builder back when you could charge tolls for things like that. And I believe it was the sort of vertical looking sections. I think that's the way the first road was constructed. It took over 13,000 planks. And by the time they started taking it seriously and doing the double wide prefabricated sections like this, the road was laid out over 6.5 miles of sandy terrain. And I know steepness is something hard to capture on camera, but even this little section laid out as a monument is rather steep. So you can only imagine how steep it would get going up certain sections of the dunes. Like I explained to you, the bit that we're seeing now, these are all original fragments of the road that they moved here in the 1970s, so they haven't sort of been sandblasted away enough to start replacing them or have a conversation about building a modern version of this monument. But even with all those hundreds of volunteer hours and all the searching through the sand drifts in the 1970s, this monument here, this is only 1,500 feet of road. And what we've got here is just a single lane of it. Now, obviously, things like this aren't as high priority maintenance-wise as, say, the interstate. But you can see even with modern technology, they've got trouble keeping the sand off of the Plank Road. Here it's pretty much buried except for the little iron ties sticking up. It would only take another inch or so, and you wouldn't be able to see that at all. It's pretty wild to think about, especially because this this sort of sand dune bed, is still alive. It's still active. It still moves a certain number of inches to the south and east every year, which means eventually one day it's going to cross the border over there into Mexico. But for the next however many thousands of years, or maybe millions of years, it'll still be here in California. And I'm only halfway up this road. I've only walked about 700 feet up this pretty hard packed sand, I would say, compared to the sand dunes themselves, and it's irritating. It's annoying. You'd think it'd be easier on the Plank Road, but there are sections that are just as sandy as the sand dunes themselves, just as soft. I think in the 70s this was looking pretty good, pretty well held together, but if it's gonna last another couple of generations, I think pretty soon they're gonna have to expend a little cash out here, get some new planks at least. Look at that. These ants, no doubt, are living under there, under the planks or in the planks. Look at them coming out of their little hole. Ooh, and okay, look at this. This answers one of my questions. They're actually bolts. So they're bolted through the plank, obviously to another iron band on the other side. There's a little washer right there. I wasn't sure if they were nails or bolts. The main portion of this Plank Road, once it was complete, once it was sort of finalized, the final version, the ultimate version of the Plank Road, lasted from about 1916 they started it, probably done by 1917, right around there. And they used it all the way into 1926. So if you count the Plank Road 1.0 in there as well from 1915, that is 11 years of non-stop battling the sand to keep it from doing this, to keep it from completely covering up the road. Oh, I can see it peeking out just up ahead on the hill. Look at this, look out there. It's kind of hard to see. Check out that border fence. Now the actual border, I think, is a little ways past that. probably over where that dark tree line is over yonder, but that's our border fence. And looking in the opposite direction, I don't know if you can see, there's a sort of a truck with a crazy camera rig. There's another pole closer to us with a bunch of cameras and sensors on it. I've driven past a lot of other sections of the US-Mexico border that had a lot less sort of tech or people along it. So I don't know what's going on in this area today, but there were a bunch of signs asking people to report suspicious activity. Look at this. You can see some of the iron sticking up. There are whole chunks, even of this historical monument version, that are covered by the sand. The wind just blows it up here. And man, it totally vanishes. That's why you have these metal things on either side. This is a big off-road vehicle area, and so people come off-roading up and down this, and this is a way to keep them off of the plank road or from accidentally running into the iron. One, to keep them from damaging the artifact, obviously, but two, to stop them from pulverizing their vehicles as well. Oh yeah, up here on top where the wind can just blow the sand straight on top of this large hill, it's pretty much gone. Look at this. I mean, that is wild. I know it's there. It's right underneath my feet right now, but you can barely see anything. I'm just trying to picture what it would be like to have your Model T or your old jalopy, and you're coming from San Diego and you hear, oh, there's a new road that goes all the way out to Arizona, and coming on it in the middle of the night or something and hitting this wooden plank road, this long bridge over the sand. I mean, if I suddenly reached a portion of road like that, I'd be going, what the heck? And look at this area where it's covered. See where it's covered over? Now, what happens if there's a windstorm and you're driving halfway down the road at night and then all of a sudden it disappears like this? It would have only taken a minor error to veer off just slightly to the right and then just be out there in the sand, getting bogged down, or accidentally crossing into Mexico before we had this crazy, look at this. Look at that crazy fence. It's like the Great Wall of China, just not as great. Wow. It's one thing to drive by a big long fence, but when I see it out here, standing out here and knowing just how long that is across that barren wasteland, that must have been no fun to build. Okay, we finally reached the end of the road, the end of the historical section of Plank Road, the historical monument basically. And I can't believe this, but my aunt is out here. There she is. Sort of an ignoble ending. And the only footprints I see out this far are my own footprints. So clearly not that many people make it the full 1,500 feet, but wow, what a trip. The weather's not too bad out here, very low wind. It's not really that hot, but the sun is pretty brutal on the sand, especially the sort of heat radiation you get coming back up. It's now like, I don't know, maybe a little bit after noon. So even in the winter, it's very dry out here, sucks the moisture right out of you. Gotta make sure you protect yourself from the sun. That's why one of the key survival things in any desert situation is long sleeves. You never see our soldiers out there running around in tank tops or, you know, Bedouin in shorts. For some reason, every time I get out in the desert, people are like, what are you doing? You're a maniac. You're wearing a jacket out there. It's just a way of keeping the sun off, which is pretty important. My jacket is very hot to the touch right now, but I am not hot at all. Anyhow, I'm tempted to go back over there towards the Imperial Dunes and climb up one of the sand dunes, particularly because, and I really wish I had an off-road vehicle for this, just between these two giant sets of dunes over in that valley is where they filmed Return of the Jedi, all the Jabba's sail barge stuff. If anyone's got an appropriate off-road vehicle to get out there, please let me know. Go over to my Instagram or Allie's Instagram or the Facebook group. It's all in the links down below in the description. Let us know somehow, because I would love to get all the way out there without having to do it on foot. All right, and now a little music and back to the car. It's pretty cool. I'm glad we checked that off the bucket list there, because it's a pretty interesting and significant piece of roadside American history. Well, not roadside, road American history. I'm always interested in the history of how we developed our road systems, and especially the early days when people were just figuring it out on the fly. There weren't paved roads all over the world, and we pioneered that in this country along with a few other places. I know you're gonna bring up the Romans, but I mean paved roads for vehicles. And it is absolutely wild just how close we are to old Mexico. I mean, that border fence is right there. And even without seeing the fence, I would know I was close, because look at Julio. Sí, Julio. Mucho. Well, I was going to head back that way and climb up one of those huge sand dunes. But just walking through the sand of the plank road took a lot longer than I expected to walk up and down and all that. And we're limited by the winter hour, so I think we're gonna head on down the road to the west and head towards California, because there's some stuff out that way that I don't want to miss. But I will tell you about these gigantic sand dunes here. They are, in fact, the exact ones that about a mile this way over the dunes, and believe me, that's a longer mile than you think it is on foot. But they are the very same sand dunes where Return of the Jedi was filmed, Jabba's sail barge and all that. So I will be returning shortly, and if you have a sand dune capable vehicle, you want to do some adventuring, you'll have to get in touch with me. Trust me, if I had enough daylight left today for me to get over that mountain, do what I want to do, and hit this next spot, oh, I'd be going, even if I had to do it on foot. But it's probably better to wait anyways, though, because I do have something special I'd like to bring out here. I don't know if you guys can hear that. There's a weird crackling overhead with these power lines. But other than that, you really did not ask for a much better view when it comes to having a snack and rehydrating. Oh, Julio, you ate all the turkey. No, I don't have any chicken. That is the hungriest bird I have ever known. A lot of driving to do across the flat, barren wasteland or desert. This, we're still in the early part of the year, which is sort of my slingshot getting pulled back, sort of getting ready for action kind of time of the year. And so this sort of trip down here was more recon than anything. I've never been through this part of California, even though I've lived here for 40 years. I've only been through on the freeway at night before this, so there's a lot to explore down here, and I'm looking forward to doing it more often. You know, because I don't mean it in an offensive way to the people who live down here, but it's sort of a forgotten corner of California, at least where the outside world is concerned, that's for sure. Case in point, look at this town right here. And look at this incredible old downtown. There is some incredible old architecture down here. Cool murals, little shops. I've never been in this town before that I can remember. Of course, it's Sunday as I stand here, so it's a little bit dead, but this is the kind of place that I like to come back to and explore. No time today, however. The shadows are getting long. But just look as I drive down Main Street here. Look at all the layers of history. A lot of mid-century stuff. It's pretty amazing. Add El Centro to the list of places I gotta come back to. And maybe meet some of the locals. No one was around today. Whoa, here's something I've never seen before. Look at this place. I've seen Wiener Schnitzel and Tasty Freeze combined before, but I've never seen hamburger stand. Also, I've never seen a Wiener Schnitzel that served tamales before. Chili cheese beef tamales. Weird. All right, let's go. Leaving El Centro now, you can see we're almost back to the mountains. It's crazy, all the green fields out here. That's all the water we're diverting out of the Colorado River right before it reaches Mexico, of course. Apparently we squeeze out every last drop we can. Up in the distance up ahead here, you can see some mountains, so pretty quickly we'll be moving out of one landscape and into another. Finally, we are here. We've made it halfway up the mountain to some place that I should have been years ago, but have never been before. The Desert View Tower. Built in 1922 by a San Diego businessman named Bert Vaughn. This 5-story tower is perched up here 3,000 feet up in the mountains, right along a very rough and very forgotten part of the old US Highway 80 that now dead ends up here. This tower is incredible, and it was partially built as a very eye-catching roadside advertisement for a restaurant and bar across the road. You can still see the remnants of some of that over there, the remnants of which still sort of survive out here. Now remember, the road from San Diego to Yuma was only completed in 1915. So 1922 and 23, when they were building this tower out here, were still the very early days of automotive travel. You can see the old road here is now long gone. What's left of it, and it is rough, ends right at the base of the tower now. And until the modern interstate, this was the main way you would get through these mountains from San Diego out into the desert where we just were. And in fact, that was the case even before automobiles were in the area. You would come up to this pass here, and a little ways up the road, you'd reach the Mountain Springs Station, where a couple of enterprising pioneers built a little stone cabin, and they had teams of oxen up here to help pull people's wagons up over the mountains. This place is incredible. It is off the beaten path, even though the modern interstate runs basically just below our feet, just off the edge of the cliff here. I mean, literally down in this crack. You can actually see the shadow of the tower across the gully right there. But forget all the history and the context. Just look at this funky architecture. What I love about the golden age of American road travel, the dawn of it here in the 1920s, into the post-war years of the 1950s, the heyday of Route 66 and things like that, was the way that people could come out into the middle of nowhere and essentially build anything they dang well wanted to. Just look at this entrance right here. Look at the stone construction and the concrete dome over the entryway. E pluribus unum. You've got the old Spanish-style bell. You've got this strange little nook with all kinds of weird natural artifacts in there. Strange astrology on the ceiling. Then, even just walking around the outside of the tower, you know you are somewhere unique and somewhere special. Look at the Native American kachinas painted on either side of these doors here. Look at those wooden lintels. I mean, this thing looks like it was built out of scraps, and I mean that in the very best way. The whole tower is a giant piece of roadside folk art. It's hard to see from up close. You gotta back up. Can you see that carved buffalo there on the bottom? There's also a carved Native American chief on the other side. Hopefully we'll be able to get a clearer view of those. But for now, we've got to go climb this tower. Gotta go inside and get our ticket. Not sure how much it costs exactly. Julio wasn't interested, so it's just me at least. Luckily for once, I actually have a $20 bill on me. Oh, I'm so excited about this. Oh, wow. This is breathtaking. Ooh, look at the size of that registry. Look at that. Okay, so $7.50.
$7.50.
Not bad.
Going home tonight then, right?
Yeah, I'm headed home. But look at that view.
Yes.
Wow, that's even from downstairs. I can't wait to see it from above. Look at that. Wow. Oh, look at the inside of this. It's like the tower's living room. All right, up we go. You can definitely feel that old wooden construction in here. This is awesome. You can feel the age of this tower. I mean, look at all the old stuff in it. Everything from old belts to older handmade souvenirs. And the views are incredible. Oh my gosh. Little surprises around every corner, but nothing dangerous. Oh, man. As I mentioned, I've never been here before, so I didn't know what to expect on the inside. Pretty rare that I haven't been to a roadside attraction in most of the United States, much less somewhere 3 hours from my house, something like that. Look at this carved mask right here. A sea turtle, Desert View Tower, paintings, some very old folding chairs. Look at this, just like pieces of folk art all over. Oh, check it out. That must have been the old cafe right there. Look at that. That's gorgeous. I had assumed it was the building across the road, but we'll have to keep our eye out for remnants. This is incredible because there's all these doors that just go to the outside of the tower. Pretty darn wild. Oh my gosh, all right, well, there's another level to go up. Oh my gosh, another floor. More old school art, some new school art. Got a little bit of a tower library. What's weird is so far, I haven't encountered any other people in the tower. But from the bottom, I could see people up at the top, so let's see if anyone is there. Ooh. Oh my gosh. Would you look at this? Whoa. Oh, no way. There's the crazy steep mountain grade I just came up. You can actually see part of the old highway right there. And here is the desert view itself. That is out of control. I can actually see El Centro way out there. And really, if you look between these cracks here and had a powerful enough telescope, on a clear day, I would not be surprised if you could see Yuma. All right, what have we got here? Look at these crazy wooden stairs. These are old. These are some original pieces of wood. I think you can poke your head up there. I don't think you could stand up there. Not a big fan of heights, so my wonder and excitement about the tower is the only thing holding me together here on this one. It ain't the wood. Okay, good. Shows signs of repair. People are worried about that. Oh. Whoa. Dude, this freaks me out. but this is out of this world. Okay, going down. There's one very creaky, cracky step right there. Whew. Wow. That was incredible. Other people who like heights and like peering from them will no doubt be laughing, but to me, that was quite an adventure right there. You can see that probably that cafe is gone because of the cut they made to put the modern interstate in. You can see the oldest part of the highway, then you can see a more recent version of the highway, and then ultimately one half of the modern highway is here, and the other half is over in that canyon. Artificially made, of course, by our modern highway departments. Wow, look at this, guys. This is out of control. And look at this little camp. Look at this. There's another portion of the old highway, which you can see right here, this sort of crescent moon shape. It's been cut away by the modern interstate, like I was saying. So it's amazing that this tower managed to survive at all. This is so cool, and it's not the only attraction, because over a 2-year period during the Great Depression, a guy that was out of work by the name of Merle Ratcliffe had nothing better to do than hang out here near the tower and carve the boulders across the way into various weird shapes, now making that known as Boulder Park. So this is a 2-for-1 roadside attraction. Let's go check it out. Of course, first that means going down the tower again. Wait a minute, before I do that, let me... Ooh. Oh, gotta watch out there. People don't build towers anymore, you know? When are we gonna bring that back? Wow, how old do you think that saddle is right there? Definitely a lot of local history. Look at those fossils, Native American stuff, old desert water bags. You used to have to carry your own radiator water with you in canvas bags. Wow, I've never seen that one before. All right, let's get down to the bottom here. Okay, I see. According to the pamphlet this guy gave me downstairs, which he claims he mostly made up, the road past the tower was just the earliest road. The official highway was the one that followed beneath the tower and around that curve that we saw outside, and that was widened and widened until eventually replaced by the interstate. Gosh, what a cool place. What in the world? I didn't see that. Didn't notice that coming up. Ooh, spooky. It's right above the sort of hippie living room down here. How rad would it be to spend the night in this place? Which clearly some people are doing. Oh, wasn't far off with the hippie comment. And yet they still like old George Washington. There he is. This is so great. There's so much weird stuff in the gift shop. Books, plants, rocks, weird bumper stickers. I don't know what in the world that is, but that looks old. These are music rolls, I think. Am I wrong about that? Like player piano rolls? That's crazy. Ooh, you got some sage. You can cleanse yourself in the tower. This is cool, man. Unbelievable. Twin Fiji mermaids. Okay, here, the piano rolls make sense now. We got a couple of old instruments in here. Oh, and a trombone, so this guy or somebody's clearly playing a bunch of music in here. Oh, look at the old signs. Ooh, look at this sign. Can't stop looking at all the crazy artwork in here. But to me, old hand-painted signs are like the best artwork of all the artwork. Wow, look at that. That was the original entrance from the highway, the official highway that ran down here at the foot of it. I think the two towers, the two original entrance gates, are still down there. They don't point at the road anymore. There was the original US Highway 80, the windy version. All right, we better head over to Boulder Park before the tower closes up. It's always sad, though, to leave the vortex of good vibes. You can see in some of the old signage, the original intent of the interior was to have a pioneer museum, so that's why there's a lot of old artifacts left over. Patriotic, you know, teach you about pioneers and the Native Americans and George Washington and whatnot, and then at some point they went full hippie. Different strokes for different folks. Pretty cool. All right, Boulder Park is just across the sort of driveway here. Luckily, we already purchased our ticket inside, so we don't have to leave any money in this box out here. But look at the cool hand-painted relics. I mean, how good is that? The reason I like stuff like this, it's old. Look at the layers of paint and rust on that thing. All right, time for us to head up into Boulder Park proper. And look at this. The crazy shapes and pieces of folk art have already begun. Look at this turtle here. That's so cool. He's just a warm-up act. Look at this already. Look at this iguana with lipstick. I love the expression on his face. All of this is carved out of the, what is this, sandstone or granite? I don't know, it's shiny like granite, but it's very soft. It must be some kind of sandstone. Look at these. Whoa. They look so small until you get up close to them. Whoa, a little too close to that rump. And then you realize most of them are at least half an alley tall. Look at this guy right here. That is awesome. Look at this. This snake looks like it wants to kiss you. Check out the way it's all carved out of one boulder. There's little things that don't make much sense scattered all over, kind of mixed in amongst the larger animals. This is one of those places where you've really got to keep your eyes open so you don't miss anything. Wow. Check out these interesting caves. It looks a lot like the area where my brother and I finally found. We cracked the code and found the filming locations to the original Hills Have Eyes. Except out there, those rocks are filthy and covered with, whoa! Covered with pack rat droppings and, dang it, look at the chief. What happened to the chief? The chief took a spill down there. Whew. Anyway, these ones are obviously much cleaner from all the tourists coming through so often, so, wow. Similar kind of thing, just tumbled up boulders, but, oh, look. Look at that hidden face right there in front of the tower in the shadow. Can you see that? There, that might be slightly better. That's what I'm talking about. You gotta keep your eyes open around every corner. There's some little thing to see. Look at this bench. This is awesome. The boulders are actually a lot like Joshua Tree National Park. That's what they remind me of. Only out there, you're not allowed to carve them into shapes. You gotta love Merle Ratcliffe, actually, because these days people would just tag on the rocks. They wouldn't even bother carving them. Let's see what's up around here. Whoa! Look at that! Look at the size of this guy. And oh my gosh, there are steps leading down. I don't know, that one looks kind of scary. I have no idea which way you're supposed to go. Because I see stuff everywhere. Like, look over here. You've got these two lizards, or a lizard and an alligator, facing each other. And I didn't even notice this was right next to me. Look at the size of this thing. Holy guacamole. That is incredible. This is so rad. I don't know if there are any more carvings hidden away down in those jumbles. But the crazy thing is, the guy that carved these, think about it, he was just out here unemployed with nothing else to do. And the way I've always heard the story, it's not like he was getting paid to come out here and carve these, even though the tower and the cafe were probably thriving businesses back then. I believe this was sort of done all at his own volition. All right, I think we have no choice but to go this way. Down into the scary Cavern de la Face. Look at this guy. He looks like Demented Bert from Sesame Street. Gotta be careful of him. Whoa, careful of him. Whoa, watch the step, too. Mind the gap. That's a deep hole. The steps are not to standard size. Is this supposed to be like a Thunderbird, maybe? Because the wing? That could be it, which might be why he looks so ferocious. Look at the water in there. Oh, it's cold. Step that got me. Whoa, whoa, okay. Almost got me again. It's an optical illusion. Whoa. Watch my head. I'm a little taller than Merle Ratcliffe, I guess. These boulder caves are so cool. Totally different type of terrain, different type of rock. But somehow it kind of reminds me of Rock City out in Tennessee and Georgia. Whew. I don't see any carvings, but look at this. Look at that red water. That's from some kind of bacteria in there. How cool is that? It's the way a lot of indigenous people would get their water, is they'd actually sometimes intentionally carve out little reservoirs like that, like in Chaco Canyon, places like that. And there's natural ones, of course, too, but sometimes they'd peck them out deeper. Interesting how resourceful people can be. Oh, wow, look at that. Skull Rock up there. Cool. I mean, this is all just naturally cool looking, even without the carvings. And sort of fun, whoa, to climb around on. You do so, though, at your own risk. They give you some pretty specific warnings about snakes and the like. That you're on your own out here. Oh, see, look. We could have gone this way. Oh, wow. Look at that. I love the mix of, like, big boulders carved out. Whoa! What is up with me falling today? Big boulders carved out, and then little pieces of rock and concrete all used together to make this. The stone stairway. How are all the ceilings made for such short people, but the steps are all for giants? The stone stairway to Skull Rock. That is cool. That is one of the coolest skull rocks I've ever seen. It's a common theme, obviously, but rarely do you see a skull painted with eyeballs still in his sockets, one. And two, the red between the teeth. He's still got gums, by Jove. I can see footprints down around the bottom here. And sort of like steps. Get to see what's behind the skull. Oh, no way. This is like Tom Sawyer Island on steroids. This is so cool. See this light coming down? I thought this was like from an electric light bulb. I mean, look at the way the light comes straight down. It's all natural. It's all sunlight coming from above. Oh, weird. Kind of narrow in places. Oh, gotta lose some of that pandemic weight. This is so cool, and the coolest part is that at the moment I've got this all to myself because, like I mentioned, the shadows were getting long, the sun was getting pretty low outside. And even if you know about this place and you know what you're looking for, when you get on the road that leads to it, there's a whole bunch of junk and old abandoned cars and a very interesting local resident out there with a very unusual business and lifestyle who I plan on doing a video with in the future. But anyway, the road is so rough that even if you know where you're going, it feels 1,000% like you're going the wrong way, like you're lost. Oh, dude, look at that view of the tower, the desert beyond, the sun going down behind these mountains over here. Look at the little houses up here. It's like a little artist colony almost or something. I happened to see on the way in that the tower and the Boulder Park are for sale. Who knows how long they've been for sale. Maybe it's one of those things like Bedrock City where it's for sale for 20 years before it finally changes hands. This is an absolutely unbelievable piece of property. I don't know if it includes the houses or what, but if one of you out there has got the money, this would be a pretty solid, a pretty awesome and unusual piece of property to purchase. I mean, what a cool place to live and work. Time to start a new diet. I don't know why Julio didn't want to come out here, other than I guess he was just too chicken. Wow. Spectacular. I think from the looks of it, I may be the last man on the mountain up here. Got here just in time. Sunset is definitely the time you want to be here. Sunset on a Sunday. Whew. Which reminds me, because I never pay attention to these things in advance, but I did see a sign that said this place is closed on Wednesdays. So if you're coming through on a Wednesday, don't bother. But that might be just for the tower, for climbing up the tower. I'm not sure. All right, I'm gonna go back the way I came because I didn't see any other way to come out. That was awesome. I don't know how far we are from San Diego, but it can't be too much more than an hour. I would guess about an hour and 20 minutes because it's only maybe 100 miles or so. So I mean, I am less than 3 hours from where I live, but this feels like a totally different world. It is amazing how just being in that cluster of boulders right there, among millions of clusters of boulders in these mountains, just being 10 feet back in there makes you feel like you're the last guy on earth. And then I walk out here, and what do I see? I see there's still people coming out of the tower. There's still a few local residents up here. Just being back in there a little ways by myself made me feel so isolated. That's the cool thing about nature in general, or even partial nature like this, right? A little mix of human, folk art, and nature. It doesn't take much to just completely shift your mood and make you feel, I don't want to use, tower hippie language, but just more connected to the universe. I'm pretty confident that's why so many people went so crazy during the pandemic and during the lockdowns. Being inside too much for too long is just not good for the human spirit. And if you can't get outside physically, because it's not an option all the time, I find that getting outside via books is another really good way to go. Because then your mind is fully engaged. You are fully outside. And don't get me wrong, YouTube videos are good, and I watch lots of travel ones, specifically a lot of nature ones, trails and people that climb mountains and stuff like that, since I can't really physically do that. But even though you'd think I'd be biased towards YouTube, look at all these birds here. Look at that cool stage right there. Even though you think I'd be biased towards my own medium here, I must tell you I think books are a level above that. Get your mind fully engaged, but obviously the best thing to do is get out whenever and wherever you can. Most people don't have the option to travel very far, especially now. Everybody's getting back to work. There's definitely a lot of COVID revenge travel, as some of my friends call it. People who are traveling because they couldn't during the pandemic. But I think that's sort of subsiding too. And a lot of people only get a couple weekends or a few hours to go here or there. And that's why it's so cool to see a place like this that's only an hour and a half away from San Diego. You could be at the San Diego Zoo, and an hour and a half later, you could be roaming around here on these boulders, looking out onto this incredible desert landscape. Trust me, I've seen a lot of beautiful vistas. This is up there. It is phenomenal. It really is. And we'll be back here again, I'm certain, because this was partially a recon mission. I've got a lot of stuff I plan on doing down that old highway, so likely we will pass this way again, especially since I at least have plans with one of the neighbors up here. All right, gang. Well, not much else I can say at the moment. The birds are all starting to cluster around and find shelter for the night. The sun has cast our little cliffside roost here into shadow, so it's time for me to be heading into the west, back to my home. Got a lot of stuff planned this year, and already this week is going to be busy. New episodes of the Randomland Conversation Show coming up, sometimes vlogs coming up, more and more of the stuff that's on Patreon. I believe we'll be visiting at least Walt Disney's original Magic Kingdom this week. Lord willing and the creek don't rise. Hey, there's those original gate posts, I believe, that I was showing you earlier. We'll also be off out onto America's roads this year, which of course always includes the Old West, for more adventures. A whole bunch of links down below, guys. I know we're all sick of people saying that, which is why I try not to say it often, but they are there, and I would appreciate it if you'd browse them and peruse them. I'm off in the land ship back home to Anaheim, so you guys have done your duty. You can go home and sleep well. By the way, we're building a new website this year, randomland.com. A bunch of stuff's gonna end up being in one place, so I don't know if people still bookmark websites, but if that's still a thing for you, maybe go and put a little bookmark over there. And there's gonna be a lot of bonus stuff. Oh, see, wasn't kidding about that road. Hold on to your butt, Julio. This is a van-breaking road. Ah, there we go. Whew. All right. Go home. Sleep well. Check the description, by the way, for GPS for this place. He just told me, don't worry about the dogs. They love tourists. They think they taste just like chicken. These are one. This is a lot harder than it looks. Every video is sand dunes. I hate sand. You could do it vertical or horizontal. What's horizontal? Yes, you could do it horizontal. That's how we do it out here in the desert, you know. Back then we didn't have horizontal. We had horizontal. It's a little more advanced. But kids these days, they don't pay attention. Can't learn, can't teach them. Cold Tahitian nights. Hold on to your butt,